When you start putting realize that your mind is really good at making things worse than they are. Fear is a liar.
Welcome to Everyday Leadership, a podcast where I interview leaders not defined by position or title. Everyday people who lead their lives in extraordinary ways. And on this podcast, they share their stories, their life lessons, and practical tools in the hope that it will inspire everyday people like you and me to realize we are everyday leaders. My guest today is someone that I am truly inspired by. She was originally born in Paris, but moved to London about 20 years ago, and she couldn't speak a word of English. Yet within her first year in London, she earned a double degree, and she has since gone on to build and found multiple companies. Now the main one is 3 Colors Rule. She is also someone who took the initiative when she realized there was a problem with women in tech, and she's now the founder of the TLA Black Women in Tech, very influential brand strategist, and one of the most influential businesswomen in LinkedIn. Flavilla Fongang shares her story of how she's had to navigate through her career, what she's learned, and some key lessons that her mum taught her that have really helped shape and mold her to become the woman that she is today. Let's get straight into it. Welcome to Everyday Leadership. And today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Flavilla Fongang, who is the founder of 3 Colors Rule. She is award winner, one of the key women in tech. She's an author. She's got just loads of different awards behind her name. And she also has a podcast, Tech Brains Top Podcast, which is absolutely brilliant. I would definitely recommend. Flavilla, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm really well, and thank you so much for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. I mean, we're talking in last year, and I was like, we just need to get you on the podcast and just talk properly and share your story, because it's so inspiring from where you started out to what you're currently doing right now.
Yeah, I guess sometimes you forget to look back into your journey and what you've done, but I guess it's something that people want to hear and feel motivated. So I'm happy to share.
Oh, brilliant! And I thought actually be a great place to start would be not what you're currently doing right now, but way back when you started, which was like in the oil and gas sector. Because I was looking, I was like, you started in oil and gas to what you do right now. This is so completely different. So how do you start? How do you end up there, should I say? How do you get into the oil and gas sector? And what are you doing in there?
That's a very good question. So before explaining about my journey into oil and gas, I should probably explain my journey into London. So as we can hear from my accent, I was born French. After all these years, I haven't lost the accent. And I moved to London, 18 years ago now, and I didn't speak a word of English. And so I study, I did a double degree, a B in economics and law, and a B in communication and marketing communication. Even after that, I'm a bit of a study freak, so I went from being a tomboy to being obsessed with being the best at school. And so I finished then with a master's in international business. Then I looked for a job everywhere. I couldn't find it because I was overly qualified, but I didn't have enough experience. So I was good on CV, but too expensive. But again, not enough people to think that, yes, you have enough talent and you haven't showcased your talent. So I ended up, looking and doing all kind of things, from door-to-door sales, working in retail, translation. And then I remember going, I always loved that story, because I remember going for this interview and I had the same impressions that, oh, she seems very, smart. And it was I applied for a receptionist job. The reason why I applied for this receptionist job is because I could see the potential of progressing quite fast, which was really good. And so yes, and they didn't take me. They said no, we don't want to take her because she's already qualified and I think she's gonna get bored. And then a month later, they called me back. The recruitment agency called me back. Said, yeah, they want you. They took someone that you didn't go well, and they want to change their mind. They want to talk to you. And me and my big ego at the time was like, nope, I don't want it. And then the recruitment agency said, you know what, just go and see. You have nothing to lose. So imagine going to an interview where you're so relaxed, people just want to convince you to work for them, and you are the one asking the questions. That's how I went to this job, and I negotiated my salary. So I took this opportunity, and it was an event company in oil and gas, and I started as a receptionist. But it took me less than 2 years to become the head of department. The company was extremely ambitious and grew very fast. It went from, I think it was about 50 people in office in London Bridge, and then we moved to over almost 150 people again. So, which was amazing. So find myself in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, find myself in Asia, find myself, Europe, what I'm used to, find myself across the world, in South America as well. And yeah, that's, I never chose oil and gas for say, but I think my my I think, there's a there's an element of a bit of random, which was beautiful because I obviously didn't know anything about oil and gas, but I learned as well along the way, which was fascinating, and also really opened my international career, which is so important, especially when you where I am right now, where I'm dealing with so many cultures, understanding that how do you do business in the Middle East, how you do business in Asia, and so forth, which is fascinating.
You just touched on the fact that when you came to the UK, you couldn't speak a word of English, and you got a degree, or you got double degree. So how did you deal with not being able to speak English? And there's also certain things that you did. So I remember we talked about this in the past around, even when you came in, you were very intentional on how you were going to learn English. And so I actually want to expand on that because it's a different way of approaching things. Because when I think about inclusion, for example, a lot of times we try to look for people who look like us or make us feel comfortable. But you intentionally didn't do that. And it actually made a massive difference. So that's why I really wanted to emphasize that point around your story.
Yes. Do you know, it's a very good question because I think I've realized that, I've always embraced diversity. Because I looked at, for example, before, leaving Paris, my friends have always been, colors of Benetton. So a mix of people from Asian, Arab, all sorts of background, black and so forth. So for me, I feel on people who don't think like me. So, and I think as well in the nature of friendship, we love an argument. So we love, the idea that we can come from different background, but still find a way to connect. And the thing that I did when I came to London is that most people, again, something like human behavior is that we feel safe when we're part of people, when we are around people who look like us or sound like us. So when we travel, something, we go, oh my gosh, you're French or whatever, you are this, and then you go people who look like us because it makes us feel safe. But I realized that in this element of safetyness, I couldn't really grow because I will confine in what I knew already. And obviously, making the move to come to London means that I have to put myself out of my comfort zone to really enable the growth of the person I needed to be, and therefore learning English. So the first thing I remember going is I shared a flat with an Indian girl, a Greek girl, a Chinese guy, a Korean girl. Discover, we learn about language because we love our food. So all of us were passionate about food. So each weekend somebody was cooking something different, which was amazing. And again, same thing. I spend my time watching Eastenders, which I learned a lot about it. You don't need to be beautiful to be an actor. And then the video was good. So I always had the video on in my room because even if I couldn't understand, step by step, because, your mind still puts information. So I will always have a video on and say, oh wow, now I finally understand what it's saying. But at first it was just listening to the music and then, trying to turn the lyrics, and then step by step you get there. But yes, it's that thing that, I didn't fall into the mistakes a lot of people do is that, when you go somewhere you're not comfortable, you go around people who sound look like you. Where I go the opposite, to say I'm gonna put myself, and and that's how I've managed in 2 months to be able to speak a decent English, and then after that, keep improving. But I must also had an English boyfriend, so that did help. I mean, a black British, I should say, black British boyfriend, which really helped. Which always funny. We're still good friends now, and laugh at me when I couldn't pronounce some of the words. But it was good to have do that.
There you go. If you want to learn English and move to a different country, get a partner from different country.
There you go. It does really help.
When you finally got the job as the receptionist and you rose up that quickly, did you have a vision in mind or something you're aspiring to get to? Or did you just get into that environment and be like, okay, I can make this happen?
No, I'm not going to lie, I didn't, but I think the nature of my character is always to be always learning new things. So when I reach a point where it becomes redundant and I do the same thing and I'm not using the full capacity of my brain, I will do something else extra. So basically, and I would say that to my team or anybody else, that I have even as an intern, I say, always think about if you're giving a task A and B, try to create another, try to do something else above that, because that's what really helps people promote. That's how people who are A-team players, they are not only good at doing what they do, but they go beyond that and they always do a bit more. So therefore they become essential. And I think for me is that I need to become so essential that not only I could negotiate my salary, I really need to have Flavilla, but also I will always, bring something that exciting into my life. So quickly before even realizing, I've implemented the, technology in terms of why are we doing these super redundant things when we can use technology to automate some of the elements, so we become so much, faster in terms of how we process, because human error, cannot compete against, the automation of technology. So I've implemented how technology can help us, remove things that are, redundant and focus on things that are more interesting in terms of innovation. What can we improve? So I did that with my department and quite fast. So yes, it was pretty much that really led me to leadership and always, driving innovation the way I did. But there was so much I could do within this business, and at some point, I realized that my ideas were just, too much for them. They were not ready to take on board my desire to always push a bit further. So then I had to look somewhere else. Bye.
So is that what led you into moving into fashion?
That's what led me. Yeah, that's what led me into creating my own thing. I couldn't find the satisfaction. I had a moody, CEO, and I looked in terms of how I was managed and what I refused. I had really bad managers. One who was moody and one who was extremely micromanagement, and I became the opposite of that. Now I always wanted to give people the freedom. That's why I really, the whole idea of working remotely did not, COVID or whatever, it didn't affect us as a team, because I never focused on the input. I always focus on the output. Everybody knows what they need to achieve. This is the result I'm looking at. This is where I'm looking at. And really, so this is what led me to. I always loved fashion, so I was always a fashionista. And fashion was more than the superficial aspect of what it's about. It was about how people we judge each other by the way we look, and also our confidence is built in terms of how we feel. And because I used to work with women first, I always say, like, wear sexy lingerie. I say, why? It's like, nobody's gonna say it. It's for you. That's how you build your confidence. If you look at yourself and you look good in the mirror, you can just feel like you can take on the world. If you wear some granny panties, you won't have the same confidence. So wear some sexy lingerie. Yes. I don't know about men. So I used to say that, to women, and, it was, for me, it was a way of, it was starting to personal branding in terms of how to build your brand. So, the way people perceive you, the way people judge you. So if I go to marketing tracks bottom, people don't have the same attitude when I wear my stilettos and my red suit, and that's just how we are. We make judgment of each other. So yes, that's what led me to the world of fashion and working with brands. Some of them have been bought out, such as Debenhams or LK Bennett, which was such a long time ago now when you think about it, but a lot of luxury, which was all fun. But what really interested me was the fact that, against something, those big brands were there, and against something, you employ people who not necessarily are, have a mindset of an entrepreneur, and I came in and show them different ways of utilizing the strength of their brand through experiential event and so forth.
And you taught yourself when it came to fashion.
Correct.
Where did that confidence, shall I say, come from?
I think it all started with my moving to London. I think that when you start putting your realize that your mind is really good at making things worse than they are. Fear is a liar. It will prevent you by nature. Your mind will want you to be lazy. So I do a lot of things around neuromarketing. So your mind wants you to be lazy, so stay safe, do nothing as much as possible so you can live forever. But sometimes during being lazy, obviously. Quite often being lazy doesn't lead to the best fulfillment, and I've learned to recognize that and embrace that fear, and let it be around me, but not let it stop me from doing what I want to do. And I think that's again, something like everything that I do right now has been proof, self teaching. Really, everything that I do right now, an obsessive learner. I always consume audiobooks or books or whatever. I learn from different space, arts or psychology, in negotiation and all sort of things. But yeah, so I always feel that the best way to stay, to be happy, is for continuously learning and having meeting new people, exchanging great ideas. And that's why people say like, I don't know how do you do all these things. I say, yeah, because I just and sometimes I have to control myself. Like, okay, I can't do all of these things. Otherwise, I would start a new business every month, but I can't. I just had to. Or what I try to do is to pass on, and I just say, "Hey, why don't you do this?" Because I say I can't do it, but why don't you do this? Pass on this idea, and I think I always think that the ideas are given to you. If you don't apply it, it gets given to someone else. A number of times we refuse to do something. Like I remember, there's one place I love a lot. It's called the Ned in London, and this place the first time when I came in, it's like, oh my gosh, I had this idea when I was 12 years old, and I put it on the paper. This place where there's different restaurant in one building existed. A compare the market was one of my early ideas when I was young, but again, something I didn't have the technology background to do it. So I would like to say to anybody listening to this, if you have an idea, don't think too much in terms of how can you not do it, but find people around you who can help you make this reality. And I've tried to take the same approach now. When I have something that I really like, I just don't think about in terms of what I can't do, but who else can do it with me to make it work.
If you were to give advice to anyone right now who wanted to start something new, what tools would you say they should utilize based on your experience?
Wow, it's a lot. This is a big question. In terms of, are you talking about in terms of tech tools?
Tech tools, knowledge tools, like key places. Obviously, you can go to YouTube and Google, but are there essential things that you can say that focus on this area, spend this amount of time on a regular basis to kind of help you to get that structure into place? Because you've done it a number of times, so I think it'd be great to get your advice.
My advice would be to say that before you start looking into tools, think about why you're doing it. Which people do you have in mind? If you can visualize your target audience very clearly, then it becomes so much easier to do anything else. They will drive and be attracted to you. So really think about why you're doing it and who do you have in mind when you're creating this product, and feel like it really resonates with them specifically. And I think probably something talking about my own mistakes, and I wish sometimes I was a bit more niche. So for example, when the agency started, we were fashion, luxury, even when FMCG, when energy, it's like, whoa, we need to come back in technology. And by going down, niching was, that's really where, I'm saying that it wasn't successful before, but it was when really success became even faster, because it's easy to recommend. Say, you want to start business tech, go and speak to Flavilla. You want to do this, go and speak to Flavilla. Then it becomes very clear in terms of who I want to work with and who I don't want to work with. So that's the first thing I would say. If I even think about my network for Black women in technology, exactly who is my target audience, so they recognize themselves. So therefore, they spread the word. That's really how this community has grown so fast. But yeah, so that's the first thing I would say first before even looking into technology. Nowadays, there's a lot of great tools. So I would say take the habit of consuming information on a regular basis. So learn information in the morning. So for example, for me, I love Blinkist. If I don't have time to read, Blinkist is a great app to just listen to audio podcasts. It's not expensive. Or you have obviously Audible if you want the longer version. I love that. When it's when it comes to tools that I like, LinkedIn is still my favorite social media app. There's new ones are being started from Clubhouse and all sort of things, but LinkedIn remains my biggest money generating. So know where your clients are. You can choose to be a bit everywhere, but where you spend the most of your time, you need to spend where the money generating information are. For me, LinkedIn, I've attracted amazing partners, clients from LinkedIn. So that's super key. In terms of tools, need to think about, I would say, why I'm able to do all of these things. I think about how technology, what can be replaced by technology. So one thing that at the moment technology can do is creativity, but when it comes to the, for some of the outreach or some of the cold calling, technology can do that. So to some certain level of being very bespoke. So I love tools such as Lemlist. I really like that. It's one of my favorite tool for cold calling outreach. Other tools that I use on a regular basis that goes alongside Phantom Buster. It's really good. Again, those tools are linked to LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is the source, and then from that, you can choose your LinkedIn outreach. Yes, and YouTube is great as well from a way of posting content, but also finding content. And I would say another thing that I would say to someone starting right now, say, focus on your clients, but also focus on your partners who have strength and power out there. So really think about who can influence the market to choose you. So and just think about the latest client that I'm working with right now, which is a big company. And the reason why they're working with me is because they were influenced by somebody else. So you have to work Flavilla. So I didn't even have to convince them. But hey, I was told I was supposed to work with you. So okay. So this is why it happened. And that's so important. People really underestimate the power of having great partners to recommend you. And I always say that it's not about selling, it's about being so good at what you do that people talk about you and recommend you. If you have done that and really care about developing great product, great service, great customer service, then you're building a pipeline with the strength of others.
I think it's probably the greatest thing you can get when your previous clients become your spokespeople,
Yeah, your
and your
advocate.
PR people for yourself. Yeah, because it just makes it so easy. And it
Absolutely.
speaks to the value of the work that you've done in the past as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I always work. I think it's one thing is people know that, my character as a leader will influence how my team behaves. So it was, people know that I always want to put people on a pedestal when I work with me. I want to feel like they're only working with me. They're my first interest. And their success is ours. So they have to be successful so we can brag about their success. Because otherwise, doing all this branding, branding or branding, especially branding, takes a lot of time. People don't recognize the impact because it's invisible, credibility or power that you're building for a client. So sometimes people find it really hard to measure it. So it's important that we set this right. Clients that desire to be successful. So we really want to make sure that clients don't only choose it, we also choose them. So we have to be, keen on their success. Like, oh, maybe see what's what. No, are you in on this? Are we going to work together, to make this work? Yes. And if they have that, then we keep on going.
Would you say it's important for everyone to have a brand, regardless of what you're doing or what you operate? Or would you say it's down to if you're trying to get a job or move into something particular?
It's a good question. I think if you are just trying to make money, having a brand is not relevant. So, let's say, for example, I'm a company in China and I'm making a copy of the iPhone. Yes, so I'm basically targeting people who cannot afford. Okay, I'm taking the iPhone. Well, let's do something cheaper, but something else. Making there's a the board, or I can't remember what it's called, but any product out there that is very expensive, and I'm a company in China and just want to make a version which is cheaper. So the idea is that you put it on Amazon, so people looking for that product but can't afford it can find the other product which is cheaper. So in this case, you don't need to have a brand, you just need to have a business because you're just focusing on selling as much as you can and making profit. It's about that. But if you really, as an individuals nowadays, having a brand is important because also as individuals gives you the power to negotiate your salary. Yes, when people come and say like, okay, my name is so so forth and I have this amount of followers who already listen to me based on that subject, come and say, wow. you come to me with, not just with you, you come to me with an army of people that will listen to working with my clients. That's a lot of people really underestimate the power of building a brand. So for me, as a marketer, I'm also an influencer to other marketers because I've created models that explain how, you know, you can, the power of building a brand, and what you do as a business is almost irrelevant. It's everything around it. That's really what creates the interest for your business. Let me explain that a bit bigger. So a bit better. So beyond marketing is one of my model. I explained that when you buy an iPhone, it's not because of the phone. Yes, you know that if you want to make a call, any phone can give you can make a you can make a phone call over phone. Yeah, if you want to just access internet, you can access internet with any phone. But why people spend £1,200 for a phone when they can get a cheaper one? Is definitely not because of the fact that you can make, they have basic functions. It's about everything else that this brand represents, the status, the lifestyle, and so forth. That's really what you're selling, and that's extremely important. And sometimes you can attach that to your societal impact choices or societal issues that you want to focus on, and so forth. And that's really, really key. So being good at what you do is expected, but everything that you do beyond that to create a tribe around your business is even more important. And that's what's key in developing a brand.
So, what is the best way to create a tribe?
Best way to create a tribe is to think about, again, something comes back to your why. And I talk about that. When the Black Lives Matter started last year, I did a talk around that, and it was about people, marketers were utilizing the Black Lives Matter to for their own goods with no understanding of it. Really annoyed me. And when I was asked to talk about this, and the first thing is to think about what is the thing that you you want to create that is beyond just the delivery of your service. So let's say, for example, if I'm a company who cares about the environment, people don't, by choosing to care about the environment, you would attract people who who are the same about they care about the environment. So let's say, it's a bank like that will focus on, we are a bank and we also care about the environment. So people choose to bank with them because of the choice that they make regarding to societal issues. Could be that or something else. But I like to give the example of a hairdresser. Yes. And I remember doing this. It's actually a thought that I have right now. So it's a hairdresser. So you're a hairdresser, and I show these photos of there's a hairdresser and there's people on the beach all partying. I was busy pre-COVID. So yeah, and I asked people like, what's the correlation between this hairdresser sitting in a salon with this woman and then these people on the beach? I was like, I don't understand. What is this? They said, well, okay, she's good at what she does, yes, but around her brand, she's specifically attract people who want a certain lifestyle. That people understand that, let's say, for example, I have a salon in Chelsea. I'm gonna attract the same type of people in Chelsea with the same type blow dry, whatever it is. But what she does around her brand, she starts creating events like champion events, luxury events, and so forth. So therefore, she started creating a tribe around the business. So people don't necessarily come anymore for just the hair; they come to be part of the tribe that she created. You see what I mean? So that's why I say, like, everything that you do around your brand is what really creates a tribe. So, for example, for me in my world of technology, I have a mastermind of tech leaders where we have conversation around what can we do or what are we doing to really just make a positive impact on technology on the world through technology. And that's the kind of thing that you need to think about. It's not just the delivery of me doing a great branding. It's about how do I bring people together who can exchange ideas and do amazing things together and connect and so forth. And that's what I've created as well for Tech Brands Token, which is amazing, which I really recommend people to do, is think about what is beyond your services that you can do that will be put together. An example of a hairdresser thing, something you can do. Well, you can put some amazing luxury events on the beach, whatever. People visit, come and pay, maybe paying £300 for a haircut. But at least I know they get to access your amazing events where they meet other fabulous people and so forth. And remember that people are we all want we attract people who look like us. So the more we see people look like us part of a tribe, we're more likely to join it.
So it's about adding that value
Mm-hmm.
and adding extra layers on top of the core product
Yes,
that you give. So they're not just coming for that one thing; they're coming for everything else that you can also give as well.
absolutely. So it can be part of your DNA from the start. Let's say, for example, if there's this brand called Tyler, who, for example, they do luxury, they do sportswear, fitness wear, based out of recycled material. Or it can be something that you realize, oh, I never had it. So you can add it afterwards as another layer. So either within your DNA or even add it as another layer if you never had it, which where people think, oh, it doesn't need to be good at what I do. That's what I need to get to do. Well, it's not enough. You need to think about what is beyond that and what is really what will bring people together. And therefore, again, something people want to feel like they're part of something.
Yeah. Sound good advice right there.
Yeah.
You've talked about obviously you being a leader as well as previous experiences that you've had of bad leaders and bad management. So I'm curious to understand what is your definition of leadership and what makes a good leader?
Love this question. You know, it's funny because someone, I did an interview and people say, you sound like a coach. I say, oh, it's true, I do sound like a coach. And I think, the difference between a manager and a leader is that the manager would tell you what to do, where the leader will enable you. This is what I do. I love to enable people. And what is people come to me and they come with preconceived ideas in terms of what they're capable of doing. And I will always challenge them, say, you think you can do this? We're gonna try something that you've never done before. That's how we're gonna do it here. So we have a bit of fear, anxiety, which is fun. It's good anxiety that I give to them. But I think, what the leaders do is, first of all, as a lead by example, it's important. So, I come with my good energy in the morning. Sometimes people are like, she's crazy. So, example, yesterday, clearly, all I'm meeting and I could see they just woke up, literally woke up 5 minutes before the call. I was like, you just woke up 5 minutes before the call. And I just laughed. It was like, you know what? I really don't care what you do. And I know people would end up do that, especially when you work from home. And I don't mind because I trust them they can do the work. And that, these little things don't matter to me. If I need extra sleep, then go and get it. But for me, it's that, the ability for me to be vulnerable in front of them and say, hey, I made a mistake. So they can be the same thing, in front of me and say, I made a mistake. So tell me before you try to hide it. So for me, good leadership is not creating an environment where they fear me, but I welcome them to challenge me and be honest. Say, hey, Flavilla, I want to do this, or what do you think about that? And always, feel that allow them to take ownership of everything that they do. And that's very important. So, and for me, it's really enable my team. Either indirectly, even people just look at me, follow me for what I do. Is that enable them to believe that they can do this? Because I always say, fear is a liar. Don't let it consume you, because it will stop you from being who you are. So great, for me, a great leader enables people to see, enable them to be a better version of themselves and feel fulfilled in the job that they really love and get excited to wake up 5 minutes before the call, but be there and always be present. So, one thing that that people love what they do and enjoy working with you is, and when you say like, why are you still here? Why are you still here? Why you go home? Go home, you go home. And that's one thing that I want them to feel that I'm not their manager. I'm there to support them, enable them to be better at what they do, and that's what they do.
Yeah. It's a brilliant definition of what leadership is. It leads by example, but just there to kind of push people to be the best that they can be for themselves.
Absolutely, because we have clients. You have to say like we have clients who want things to knock for yesterday. Like, hey, Fabiola, I need this for yesterday. Huh? And then we have to deliver, and we always do, which is great about us. But again, something one thing that I realized as well, and I always teach them that if you give people a day to do something, they will take a day to do it. If you give people an hour to do something, they will take an hour to do something. So really, time can be as modular as you wish it to be. So really important to understand, get certain things about my progression. That's what really frustrates me as well about France. France, when you think about promotion, oh, you have to wait a year. I'm like, why you have to wait a year to move to the next level? Like, that's what I love about English. Like, if you're really good, 6 months, boom, next thing, 6 months, boom, next thing, 6 months, whatever it is. Where here is like you have to, define this thing to control. That's a very hierarchical, how I can pronounce it.
Hierarchical.
Yeah, there you go. That's the word. Which really frustrates me about the front's, management systems. Like, I want to progress fast, and I'm a fast mover. That's why, people say, how do you write a book in a couple of months? And because time is irrelevant. If I want to give myself a year to do this, I can take a year. If I want to give myself 2 months to do it, I can do it in 2 months. It's up to you. And I always good to have a deadline in your mind in terms of what you want to do, but create your own norms in terms of what time is required to do something, instead of say, oh, this is how much it can take to do this. Reinvent your own model to prove yourself and see what you can do. But if you follow the norms, you can never be a fully great innovator or game changer. That's what's really important.
So you sound like someone who has a lot of self-drive, self-determination, just be like, no excuses. That's the time I'm giving myself. I'm going to stick to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. My mind is my biggest asset. So people say that what are the things that you do in the morning? First thing I wake up and I thank God. Yeah. So thank you. I'm awake. I'm gonna live another day. As I'm seeing February, my family is alive. My friends are alive. I'm happy. Then I wake up being grateful for 10 things. I would say like 10 things that you're grateful for. You know, take the time to appreciate what you have is so important. A lot of people don't take the time to do that. From that, my mindset is, I'm excited about the day. I'm excited about what I want to do. And then ideas start flowing to my mind, so good things can boom, great, you know. So I've always, used, understood the power of mindset and how you can fuel it to achieve great things. And I do the same thing around people around me. So yes, so self-drive has always been that, but again, it comes back to my own personal why. So I'm driven by my own family in terms of what I want to do and achieve for them as well, which is super key. It's not a selfish act. I know that it becomes to achieve even more success, it benefits just not me. It benefits everything around me. That I appreciate the sacrifices my mother has done for me. So that's my one of my biggest motivators. So think about, it's funny because I love the book, which obviously gonna not come out of my mind. Think and Grow Rich. Think like men are driven by a woman. I think like, what about women then? Why can't we be driven by that? Sex is a high driver, which is true. Sex is a high driver. I think like, what? Why can women be driven though? It's like it was either a mother or either a woman and so forth. I don't know if you read the book.
Yeah, it talks
Yeah,
about love and sex and the energy between both of those.
exactly. And it
Yeah.
is, it is a good one. And thinking about what about women's point of view? Again, something, you can find your own drivers. And for me, it's just about, something from my mother's point of view in terms of what she's done for me. And that's extremely important.
What would you say the biggest lesson you learned from your mum is?
It's funny. She's like, oh, what's so clever? Why I never listened to what she said when I was young. She said so many things. Mama's always been good with money. That's one thing. Like, even if she had not little, she always make sure that there's always food on the table. She's always good big in terms of even investment. She's investing, for all her life, and things like that. See, Mama's always been the one of the things that Mama always told me, like, if you want a cookie, you're gonna have to tell me. Because if you don't ask me, I can't give it to you. That's what it is. If you don't ask, you don't get. So I was always taking the approach of asking if I wanted something. That's what's called prospecting or hunting, as I say sometimes. So think about the biggest partners I have. I've literally, go and act. A lot of people go and expect things to come to them, even though I have in my blood, I have some royalty, and so forth. But yeah, so biggest lesson I've learned from my mom is that never let anyone feel pity for you. That's super important. And even when you have nothing, not let people think less of you. So that's one thing. So always embrace. And that's probably where my desire around personal branding and elevating and projecting the right image to attract the right people around you is important. So even if when I had a little, I grew up in Paris, but I grew up in a ghetto. People think, oh my God, you're from Paris, you're from Paris. But I grew up in a ghetto, right? Where, you had, all sorts of, bad influence around me. But I didn't let the external world know about that because I didn't want them to define me by my entourage, or not necessarily entourage, but by where I grew up to think that, they could pity me. So that's one of the things that lesson people, my mom has taught me.
And how did you get into tech, when I was getting into tech, but like create and found like the black women in tech?
Yeah, it's a good question. I like that. So how did I get into tech? So yes, so as I mentioned, so when the agency started, Free Colors Rule started, we were fashion luxury, and then people came to us, say, "Oh, I wanted to work with us, but we're not doing. That's not what we do." It's like, it's okay. We want you to do it because you are highly creative. It's like, okay. So we ended up working in a lot of sectors, and technology was one of them. So at one point we had to choose. We are doing too many things, and it becomes really hard to prospect. So we decided to say, okay, we're going to choose technology and be more thorough about that. And we're super excited about technology because we had people who are creating amazing things, but not necessarily find a way to do it in a explain it in a simplest way. Like, what is it do you do? It's like, talk to me in English, which we really like. And then the nature of my role requires me to be out there, either network or just speak or all sort of things. And I've always been accustomed, working in oil and gas by the fact that I was the only one in a room, except when I was going to Nigeria, which was great. Yes, I was so worried about my people. And and then when I've worked in tech, I said, oh my gosh, I'm either just the only woman in the room, or I'm the only black woman in the room. I said, I cannot believe there are no other great black women working in technology. I refuse the idea of not seeing other black women. For me, was not possible. And I kept the idea in my mind, so I kept on going. It's like, this is okay, great. It's good for me to stand out being the only one because, me, I wear red suits, come into room, high stiletto. I'm here. You're gonna remember me.
You're gonna know.
You're gonna know. You're gonna know I'm here. Listen, I make the approach. They're like, who's this girl coming to our circle? And then I was invited. One of my friends said, come Flavilla to this event. We're doing this private lunch, and she comes. It was £150. Like, oh, I pay £150 for lunch, but so let me see what's on the menu. So I say, okay, it's champagne. Okay, it's champagne. It's free course. It's legume. Okay, I come. I said, this guy you need to hear talk. His name is Rush Show. I was like, okay. So I was like, and I heard this guy talk, Rush Show. Was always quite nice. It's very, talk about the importance of technology and what he's trying to create and how much we're gonna have a shortage of talent and technology and what he was doing. So we connected. So I really like you. So first, I had to be honest. I approached him as a prospect. Obviously, it's great. He has all my prospecting inside this network. We realized this guy's not gonna let me in. Okay, fine. So I went to say I'm gonna go to the event and network by myself because obviously TLA, Tech London Advocates, is a big group. So you have loads of verticals and geographical and all sorts of things. I start going to all the events, whatever it is in creatives, whatever it is in fintech. I'm still the only one in this room. What is going on here? I said, Russ, why am I the only one? Say, I know I'm trying to fix this. I said, well, I'm going to fix this. And we sat down in a conversation. And it's so funny because I think you probably underestimate me, which I like when people underestimate me. Say, yeah, when you do your lunch event, if you have 40 people, that'd be great. And then let me know when it's the day and I'll come up. In my head, I'm thinking like 40 people. What is he talking about? I don't have more than that. And then I started talking around. He's like, I'm launching this event, and this is what I'm doing. And then this company, Family House, say, we want to sponsor you, and we'll do this, which is great. And I said, rest of the event is on this date. It's happening at this venue in Moorgate at Arbuthnot and Latham, big family house, champagne reception. And I had the keynote speaker I had for this event was the only black woman on the rich list. Valérie Morin, fintech company, the only black woman on the rich list was her. And she grew a business by literally embracing diversity. And she did so well. I think they sold the business now, but it's still part of the business, but gosh, even richer. And we had about 250 people for this event. And I was like, whoa, okay, yes, now you know this room into this. And people were excited, people say, oh, I'm so glad you did this. So good to actually find each other, and so forth. And I realized, oh my gosh, I had something here. And the first year, we just ran on social media. We just had a mailing list. Because obviously it was run on the back of the agency. So it's a pro bono, it's a non-profit. Now it's set up as a non-profit organization. So it's separated from Free Colors Rule. It was very much of a, let's see what this community comes together and realize the list is growing, 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 growing. And then, then Dutch Bank, work with us, Deloitte work with us, Department of Education, as well get involved with us, Unilever working with us. They realize, wow, there's a lot of people who actually want to find this amazing, talented black woman. They're out there. But most importantly, people say they can't find them. So people say to me, I can't find speakers, black female speakers. Like, you were lying. Because I had every single month, I never had a shortage of black women to speak at my event. And on different subjects, psychology, communication, finance, investment, and so forth. We're all there. And it was just a place where whether you are in tech or not in tech, you can be part of it, which is amazing. And I think that's what women were looking for. So, and when COVID happened, we had to move online, which was actually a good thing because there's less logistics. Just need Zoom, and the back of that, we were able to grow our network now nationally, but also internationally. So we are now black women in America, black women as well in Africa founded us,
Wow.
which is amazing. So now it's actually become a global network where women come from all around place, and now we have a website, which is great. So we started telling stories of black women as well on the page, and so many things that they've done, and we're doing events on a monthly basis on soft skills, not hard skills, but soft skills, which is growing. So now, say I have to set up as a business. It can't be as a non-profit organization. It can't be just one thing because we want to grow. And one of my big missions for this year is to create a book because I was looking at where are the stories of black British women who have done some things around technology. So we're writing a book about that would tell the stories of 51 women who have had an impact in technology. And the ideas behind that is to get it distributed across educational institutions in the UK. So every library, for like when kids get back, can read this. And I think it's important to have those stories that inspire you to think that, wow, she can do it, so can I. So there you go.
That's what a powerful story. All from £150 lunch and your desire to actually see change within a space. Because so often, I'm sure the people before you who've couldn't see that there was a problem there, but you're like, actually, let's do something to change that, and it's grown. Like, I know a black woman in tech has got bigger and bigger over the years, and people talk around the network of meeting like-minded people and just bonding, sharing stories, but actually working together. It's been the boost has come out of it as well, so that's really amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's funny because it was a lot of naysayers. That's people have to remember. A lot of people would try to turn you to try to refrain you from launching an idea. Say, oh, don't do it. It's not necessary. We don't need this. It's just gonna alienate people. Nah, nah, nah. I was like, why? I'm sorry, but I'm pro black woman. What's the problem? I'm gonna do this, and it's not about that. And there's a lot of allies as well say, oh, what is so important? Because at least I always think that the person who is most underrated is always a black woman, and I know. So I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for black women, you know, and it's important that we highlight the way that quite often they don't even realize their power. I think quite often they don't realize how influential they are, and this is why I want to highlight them so they can really regain that value, enable them to see that wow, what you do is amazing. And they don't often, literally, I remember going with one of them say, we were talking at was Black Girls Talk we did in November. I said, oh, I was part of, so introduce her, tell us who you are. And I said, oh, I was part of a .com. And she did it so casually. I said, you were part of a .com, but she didn't realize how important her implication in the .com was. And she just think, oh, I was part of a .com and I did that. And she said that so casually. It's like, you don't realize what you've done or what's something you're part of. A lot of people in this thing, that's why branding, and I keep, as a branding person, say, understand the power of the brands. A lot of people are great out there, but they don't know how to sell themselves. You don't have to be the best in the room. You have to be one who makes the most noise. And people know me. I'm always at least once a week on LinkedIn, always talking or bragging or whatever, because I know the silence watcher. At some point, people say, hey, Flavilla, I've seen all the great what you've been doing, and I'm going to reach out to you. That's me putting a seed in your mind on a regular basis, even if you don't engage with it, you've seen it. It's in your mind. And by the time you decide to engage and think about, oh, I'm looking for a burning person, the first person that comes to your mind, it's me. Yes. Even if you don't need me now, and that's what happened. People come to me, oh, 5 years, 10 years, then I say, oh, Flavilla, I see what you did. Now I'm ready to work with you. But if I didn't spend continuously that presence in terms of what I'm doing, then when it was time for them to take action, they would have to come to me. People say, how on earth do you get to speak among, top speakers of CEOs of big brands? Don't you know who I am? I know my worth, and I'm really good as well at portraying it as well.
What's it like growing up as a black person in France?
Oh gosh. I think when you grow up as a black person in France, you have limitation. So again, I didn't mention this, but before coming here in London, I really thought that could not only be the assistant of someone else, the assistant of a manager, because I never saw people looking like me in power or responsible in director roles or senior level roles. And if you don't see people look like you, so therefore your expectation will be lowered. And that's why London was such a pivoting moment in my life in terms of wow. And I removed any barriers above my head, thinking, well, if I want to do this, I'm just going to do it. Nobody's going to stop me. If I want to write a book, I'm going to write a book. If I want to do this, I'm going to do whatever I want and make it happen. And that's really what it is to be, they talk about equality, and so forth, but you can really sense that, even though there's some progress now compared to when I left now years ago, but yeah, so, there was a lack of representation of black people in successful role, and the less you see this, and also you have to see in terms of where Paris has been built, poor neighborhoods have been put in the outskirts of Paris, where you see here in London, you have council flats all over the city. Yes, so you may find council in Chelsea, you might find council taxes in Brixton, you might find council flats in all fancy places, which always makes me realize like this person paid this person paid this amount of money, they live just across the road. But in Paris, it's the same thing. So really, we're creating a divide in the structure of the build of Paris. So where if you're within Paris, they're going to create division. And if you will say, if you live in a suburb of Paris, you are considered as second class. We now, we're more in the center of Paris now, but before we used to live in the outskirts of Paris. So therefore, people say you come from the 92 or 93 or whatever, region of Paris, you will know that you came from, people perceive it as lower poorest areas. That's how people will say it. So when you put your CV or you put where you come from, they think, okay, that must not be good. So it was a good way to filter, people based on their names. So if your name is Mamadou or Mohammed, and they did that test where put exactly the same CV. One is called Carol, another one's called Mohammed. Mohammed didn't even get the interview. Carol did get the interview, but she got exactly the same role, get the same experience. So yeah, so being black in Paris wasn't as great as being in London. Even though there's still things to be done, but yeah, big difference.
That's interesting. What you just said right now, I can relate to that as well. I remember doing exactly the same thing in London when I was trying to find jobs way back, and I just applied, and I couldn't, and I changed my name, same CV, and I got interviews, and that was years ago. But yeah, it's different country, but a lot of similarities and a lot of ways when it comes to
yes, and that's why it's important to break those, the tokenization of black people in terms of, as a marketer, even me, I influence my clients in terms of how do you represent, in terms of what visual do you use for your brand, because the perception that will cultivate around, the advertising marketing industry has a big impact in terms of how we keep putting people into boxes. So it's important that we see more representation of successful black people, not just the idea of if you're black, you only this. You are, a benefit seeker, or you just, this, or you end up in a gang, which is not true. Really people from all sorts of colors in gangs, So that's why it's so important to raise representation in a positive manner, so really can change the outcome for a lot of people. And focusing on Black women was important for me, but also I wanted to not be exclusive because I wanted to bring allies. So they understand how it feels when you're in a room where you are the minority. And I love when it comes like, how does it feel to be the minority in the room? And say like you can feel, you can put yourself in our shoes and understand what you can do out there to use your power of influence to change your game, not only for you, but for other people as well. It's important those things to happen every day. And we do really underestimate, the us, something of assumption, the assumption that we make just based on our subconscious mind. And I love psychology because when it's in psychology, you can apply in marketing, and that's what it is that we do. Is like we feel safe. A lot of people don't achieve, success or happiness because of playing the safe card all the time. The same thing when we choose a brand, we choose brand that we recognize. I love this example when I went to Mexico with my brother, and we arrive in Cancun, and we see this long queue people. You're thinking, what's going on? I think, oh my gosh, maybe they're serving margarita. Maybe they're serving margarita now. This is the best place ever. And no, when we look at the top of the queue, we see all these Americans travel all the way to another country to have a Starbucks coffee.
That's the power of the brand. That is the power of the brand.
That's the power of the brand. Again, safe. Human nature is to want to be safe. When we don't know where I'm, the opposite is like, oh, I've never tried this. I'm going to try something I've never seen on the thing. That's what I'm going to try frogs, camel, all sort of weird food. Okay, I haven't tried insects. But yeah, so really just showcase in terms of why is it so important to build a brand. We feel safe behind brand because we don't like to make, mistakes and take risk by nature.
I think you're a testament to what happens when you don't play it safe and you keep on reinventing yourself, keep on trying new things, and just keep on pushing. And once you got that personal drive and that why to keep you going, you can create a life you want while making an impact on the lives of other people around you and driving change forward, because that's exactly what you've done throughout your career in so many different ways.
Yes. But you know what? One thing that people get wrong is I think that you have to make a choice. And I think the more you embrace those two, the quicker you're going to achieve success. And if I knew that sooner, even though, I've done some part of it, but now for me, it's so important to embrace the two. And I really talk to brands now that like, don't just be good at what you do. Think about what you can do beyond, because that's what's going to get the word out, especially if you have a low level of differentiation. Think about really what is above that you can do. That's why more people want to speak with you. That's why people want to get your attention. That's why people want to, interview you. That's why people want to get you on podcast. It's because of that. If you haven't got a practice significantly different, such as Tesla, whatever it is, you have to go even beyond in terms of your delivery and your impact on, for the work that you do. And if people implement that from the start, win much faster.
What would you say success is for you?
Success for me, it's freedom. I think it's freedom. The fact that that I think people think success is money. I don't think it's money, because I'm surrounded by millionaires who have everything and they realize they have nothing else than money, and they realize that freedom is freedom to be able to to be able to spend time with your family. Freedom is freedom. For me, success is that time that you are available where you can choose to lay in bed and do things that you really like. Because you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have time, what's the point? So really, that's freedom of making choices that makes you happy. That's really what success is about. Because money is not the end. Money is the enabler against something. I'm not saying that money is not important. It's definitely important. But it's not all, because you can have all the money in the world. If people say, I make £1 million, but you have £100,000 of expense every month, then you definitely not that kind of successful millionaire that people are talking about. I think it's really that freedom that you get, that you create assets that keep building themselves. You create something that has is of impact as well. So freedom is one. So many, for me, success is so many things, but one of them is freedom, but it's also impact, into knowing that you do something that will enable people to do something else with it. We all underestimate our power, big or small. Yes, we all impact on one another. I love this exercise. I remember doing this exercise, probably one of my last talk I did in front of an audience, and I asked people, so close your eyes and think about someone that you really, really like, that really influential in your life. And you can see as I'm looking at people with their eyes closed and they start smiling. And I asked them the same question again. So think about someone that really, really is happy to have you in their life. And think about them right now. And you see like how much they love having you in their life. And you can see them smiling. So now I want you to think, remove yourself from their life and think about how their life would have turned out. So that can be you being a mother, or you being a sister, or you being a friend. And you can see how their face just go like, "Ooh," and say like, do you think you have an impact? Do you make an impact? And they say, yes, we do. Yes, you do. And people always think about it. I have to be the Nelson Mandela, I have to be the singer, I have to be Oprah Winfrey. I'm not talking about like impact. Impact doesn't have to be touching millions of people. The thing that we do every day, being a good parent, being a good brother, being a good sister, is all impactful in terms of how, what we do for each other. So let's not neglect that.
What a perfect way to end what's been a brilliant interview. There's so many things that we could go into around like neuroscience, neuromarketing, all that kind of stuff. But that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah. Another time. We can do it again.
What's the best place people can find you?
Well, where can you find me? Everywhere, except you're not going to find me on TikTok. That's not me. But you can find me on...
Why not?
That is not me. I'm not... I love dancing, but dancing to sell my services, that is definitely not me. Dancing, pointing at words, that I'm looking for that. Oh, gosh, what have you done, TikTok? But yes, you can find me on LinkedIn for sure. You can find me on Instagram, on Twitter. You can find me on YouTube. I have lots of great content that I put out there, free workshop. You can get a test of my book, read the first 10 chapters, 10 strategies for my 99 strategy book. So yes, but Google my name, easy to be found. There's only one Flavilla. I mean, actually, I'm the most famous Flavilla, I should say.
I'm gonna go with there's only one Flavilla. There's only one Flavilla. Now, but on the real though, it's a pleasure. I really appreciate you coming on. And like I said, if you tap into Flavilla's content online, on LinkedIn, on her website, on YouTube, there's so much value that she gives out for free around branding, around marketing. And she is brilliant at what she does. Bundle of energy. Like, this is early morning here.
Yes.
And we're just vibing this, just having this conversation. And really, the impact you've made with Black women in tech has been absolutely amazing. There have been so many people that I know that have been touched, impacted by that. And the growth, the fact that now you're in so many different countries as well, is really, really good to hear. So it's great to see change happening and people moving forward and people taking ownership rather than waiting things to be created. You're like, no, we're going to build this and create this and build it for ourselves. So it's really, really good to see you doing that and you spearheading that.
Thank you so much. My pleasure. Wait for the next thing. Wait for the next thing.
I can't wait. Because I know it's going to be dope. So this is Everyday Leadership. See you soon. Thank you for listening to this episode of Everyday Leadership. You can check out the show notes on www.mindsetshift.co.uk/podcast, where you can find out more about my guests and how you can contact them. You can listen to old episodes, or if you have a question about this episode or any other episodes, you can just press a button and ask me that question and I'll answer it on the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, share this podcast with someone else. We'll see you next time on Everyday Leadership. Bye.